Producers. In July. Okay, so hi guys. So I'm on a cruise ship and it's a little bit noisy, so I have my headsets in. Hopefully it's canceling all the other noise, but I figured instead of doing this in my tiny little room, even though the lighting isn't great out here and I look a little bit crazy, you know what? I love the idea of you seeing sort of cruise ship life, in real time. Like this is what it looks like. I'm on what's called the promenade. I'm next to the coffee shop. As you can see right there, there's the coffee shop. And it's I'm on a big ship. It's a very big ship. It's called the Panorama at a Long Beach. And one of the things I'm noticing is that people kind of aren't sure how to act. A lot of people, this is their first cruise. This is my second. I took one back in September the 8th through the 13th. And that was a smaller ship off of Florida, off of Cape Canaveral. This is a very large ship. It's called the Panorama. It only did 1 or 2 voyages prior to lockdown. It was basically new. It was the sister ship to another ship called the Vista. It's very, very large as well. And it's beautiful. But it's interesting because hello, Hector. We're at 25% capacity, on 25 to 50%. Oh, full moon. I'll have to go out on the top deck. I believe we're lower than 50. We're above 25% and lower than 50%. So somewhere between there, 35, 40, somewhere in there. Nobody has a direct answer because I've asked. But usually, like behind me, you would see a parade of people walking, chatting and playing cards. And clearly that's not happening. There's isolated, and you can see how many empty spaces there are behind me. And even when you're on land, today I was in Mazatlan. Yesterday I was in Puerto Vallarta. Now, Puerto Vallarta, when I was a little girl, I used to dream of like Puerto Vallarta because I used to watch the Love Boat. Remember Love Boat? And everything good seemed to happen in Puerto Vallarta. So I felt like, oh, I can't wait to see it. And, it was quite lovely. But what was interesting to me, and I showed it on my 330, is that just because I have my back to everyone, they have signs around saying it's strongly suggested that you wear masks indoors. Most people are wearing masks indoors, as you can. The crew has to wear the mask indoors. And what's particularly strange is that I'm what's called a working quarantine, which means, unlike the days of old, I'm encouraged to stay away from the crew. Usually, as a comedian, I'm a de facto crew member. I'm allowed to, go in the crew bar, which I don't do because I don't drink. I think I've been in a crew bar twice to buy water. But I am supposed to basically go in my room, stay in my room, or come up top. To protect the crew, anybody from the outside is encouraged to stay away from that. And they keep their social distance and they all wear masks. But that, once you get past the crew, everybody on the ship is a mixed bag. Because it's a Long Beach embarkation on a beautiful ship, and it is amazing, we have, during my shows, and I'm not working tonight, I realized we have people from Utah. We have people that came as far as Minnesota and Chicago because the flights are cheap. And this ship is a nice ship, and they wanted to see the Mexican Riviera, and the rooms are cheap. So we have Minnesota, that I know for sure because they said it, Utah, lots and lots of Californians, lots and lots. Oh, there's a meteor shower tonight, David. I'm definitely going to go up on the top deck. But what's interesting to me is that everyone is getting along. No one is being nasty to people that are not wearing masks. Nobody is questioning anybody's vaccine status. I am not certain that you have to show proof of vaccine as a passenger as a requirement to get on this ship. I know that they were trying to pass legislation and they were saying a certain percentage has to be. I'm not entirely certain how that works. I had to as an employee. So this is it, guys. This is the new normal. The new normal is sort of catch as catch can. When I was in Mazatlan 2 weeks ago for the Mazatlan Jazz Festival, they insisted that I take a COVID test and that I had to pick up the results the next day and that I had to carry the results in my hand to cross the border at San Diego at the CBX. Guess what? Nobody asked me for anything. I just did global entry. Nobody asked. So I like the idea that we're being allowed as humans to make decisions about our own lives. Because the reality is that's what we're going to be talking about on the Monique Marvez Show going forward, which is redefining and defining who we are now that we realize in no uncertain terms. I don't want to say we're kind of on our own because that's not true. There's communities springing up, the gig economy, more and more people are looking into cryptocurrency. People are asking each other and friends for help. And, there's a new way of interacting with one another. It's getting quite noisy. I must be the lucky charm of the floor. It must be like, oh, the comedian showed up. Let's go see what she's up to. There's people over to the left of me chatting and having a good time and being social after I picked like the emptiest spot on the ship. Who drinks coffee at night? Nobody. So, I told producer Stanton that this wasn't going to be a terribly long show. But that being said, I want it to be an effective show. And by effective, I mean I want to impart thoughts. I want you guys to think about your own lives. I want to have this show, this iteration, as opposed to Talk of Our Times, be a lot more interactive. I want you guys to, to send me questions or things you want to talk about or news stories that tripped your trigger. For instance, today, all that was in the news, yesterday, of course, we lost Colin Powell, who was an amazing man in many, many ways. And that we also today was completely just hijacked by the fact that they seem to have found human remains along with some personal belongings of this fellow Brian Laundrie. And that whole saga, the Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie saga, which I keep talking about only because it's so interesting to me how there's sort of this right alignment where it's, I'm not sure why he's showing that picture, but just so you know, the graphic that he's showing, that was completely set up. And I was walking down the boulevard in Las Vegas, and these two male dancers who were not working because all the shows were shut down. And this is exactly dovetailing into what I'm talking about. Their hustle is that they go out on the strip, two of them. So it's a lot more compelling that they work in tandem and they dip you and hug you and pose like they're spanking you. And then they just give you a Venmo and say, we work for tips. And you can either give them cash or you can Venmo them a couple of dollars for posing in some risque pictures with you that are funny. And so I took several pictures with these two male dancers, and they actually, I got into a conversation with them, not just a pretty face. They were actually pretty bright guys who had figured out like, hey, if we can't dance. We got to figure out how to make a living. So we're going to pose for pictures. And they wore their masks up until they posed, and they weren't, talking or breathing all over me during the pictures. And then they put their mask back on. We had a conversation, and I was more than happy to Venmo them. And I was grateful that they answered my questions. How has it been for you, and what's going on? There it is. There's the picture. So, and they were fun. And one of them actually follows me on Instagram now and has said next time I'm in Vegas, he'd like to come to a show. So there you have it. But what I want this show to be about, and I keep saying it because it's redefining itself. And next Wednesday I'll be home in LA, and I'll actually have what I call a fully cooked show, because right now I'm kind of formulating the shift because it's exciting for me. This is an exciting time for me. I've been doing stand-up pretty much the same way for 30 years. Since from 1990 to 2020, I did almost the same thing. And then COVID hit, and producer Stanton and sound guy Tony and I started working on a little sort of documentary. We'll figure out what to do with it, called Shift Happens. And where the micro story is me and the macro is the world. And I gathered footage with them. I gathered footage on my own. I went and did some unusual gigs. I did stuff outside. I did stuff in an art studio that was out in the middle of Houston so that it could be in a big open space. I created my own venues. I crowdsourced fans. The 330's been going on now for 330 Gang has been going on for over 500, almost 570 something days. I was only supposed to do 40. And as you look into my poorly lit face on an increasingly loud cruise ship, and you can see a lot of people on the ship are stereotypical. They're older and people that enjoy a buffet. But the good news is, wow, it's quite, I didn't plan this. But they're having a good time. And by the way, I think the young people are not walking past me right now because they got off the ship and day drank and did tequila shots. And it's an hour later in Mazatlan, so it's 9 something, and they're pretty wiped. But there are a lot of young people on the ship, and a lot of party people on the ship, and a lot of people having a good time. Like that guy. So, and these are staff. You can see they're the workers. Yeah. Hello. So, I'm excited because although I'm not good at technology, and I got, pulled out of my old way of life, which was radio, podcasting, and touring and ships. Although I got dragged out of my old way of life, I pivoted. I embraced this. I made friends. I asked people that had different skill sets than me. I built a website. Granted, I still need to post tour dates now that I have them, and, et cetera, et cetera. But I did a lot of things I was afraid to do. And I talked about that today with a friend of mine, because now that the world is changing, she's been on lockdown with her new boyfriend for a year and a half. For a year and a half, they've been sort of lovebirds, so to speak. But I matched them up, so I know him. I'm not going to name any names. He's a fellow comedian. And interestingly enough, he is thrilled that the world is opening up. He's booked himself on many cruises, including over the holidays. And they had a huge issue. She called me today, and we had a very long conversation, because in her mind, so what that we've been together a year and a half? Because that's I hate to say it, but I worked with John Gray with Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and women very much have and this is psychological, this is proven, this is factual, that women have what have you done for me lately? In other words, it's like 50 first dates. We don't bank goodwill of like, you did a really good thing 5 years ago, so you can coast on that. Like when you tell a woman you love her, like that doesn't mean that like she's just going to put that in the bank and like, okay, you never have to tell her again. It's really quite the opposite. When we wake up, it's almost, blank slate. You can say, but 3 days ago I fixed your car, or I unclogged the toilet. but for many reasons until you're older, and I am older. I am much older. So that being said, whenever somebody does me a good turn, whether it's a man I'm in a romance with or a dear friend, I remember it with gratitude, and they have that chit and they have that favor. But my girlfriend is substantially younger than me and was very, very upset. And I told her, I said, you've had a year and a half of an abnormal situation where you counted on each other, where you together all the time, where you watch TV all the time. We've had a year and a half of a completely abnormal situation that has strained and stressed relationships, in an immeasurable, let's just say unfathomable, immeasurable way. I see it in my own family. I see it with, the loss of my brother. I say didn't create dysfunction, it shined a spotlight on it. And I'm sure that the loss of jobs or the loss of prestige or the loss of a lot of money or having to move away or out of your apartment or move home or decide to move to another state that's more in alignment with your thinking. I have a friend who's unvaccinated in Los Angeles, and he's seriously considering moving to Arizona because it's getting harder and harder for him because he is an employee. He's not an independent guy that can just, be an entrepreneur and stay home and make money without mixing with people. So, we're coming off a year and a half, more than a year and a half, of highly charged, unusual relationships with each other, with our employment, with our own minds, with our own minds. And I say that because I jokingly tell people that, and I'll give you a little bit of material. On stage, I talk a lot about this. I'm developing all new material about this and about intimacy. Like I talk about what would it be like if you pick somebody up now for a one night stand, like you wearing a mask, you wearing a condom, do you what is considered safe now? Do you ask for a COVID test? Do you get like a full workup? Are you the antigens? And in fact, yesterday when I have to get tested on the ship every 3 days. So I went down to get tested yesterday, and it was a male nurse from Serbia, young, very handsome. And he said, do you want me to swab you or do you want to do it? And I'm not sure if I'm going to do it right. So I said, I'm going to let you do it. And I slid my mask down. I felt very like, oh, look at me. Like he's looking at my nostrils. How sexy is that? Ooh, like, ooh. And he said, well, I'll be gentle with you. And I said, I can't tell you how long it's been since a handsome man said, I'll be gentle with you. And he laughed and he said, well, it's, been a minute for me. And we were having this whole sort of double entendre repartee. And he, he said to me, I can tell that you're the comedian on the ship and that I'm not going to get in trouble and you're not going to, me too me or fill out any paperwork. I said, no. As a matter of fact, I've been locked up for, keep it coming. Like I want to hear every double entendre you got, like outside of really getting into it, into the nitty gritty, And I thought, how long has it been since I have just unabashedly, given somebody the full court press and flirted with them and said, quasi, and it happened to be a nurse that was swabbing my nostrils. And it felt good and it felt fun and it felt old school and it felt analog and it felt real. And I think for me, spending all this time alone, this is part of the material. I say I've spent, almost 2 years, really, because I started working, going out on ships in early 2020. So it's 20 months at this point, 19 months that I've been just locked down or working and completely alone, not dating. I jokingly say on stage, I'm pretty sure my hymen's grown back. I say I'm a virgin again. Whoever gets me is getting a virgin. I'm from the 60s, but my boobs are 2020. And then I do the boob shake, and I talk about not going to my waxer and how, eventually I'm going to go and get everything all trimmed up, but I'm not ready because it's like, feng shui. If you build it, they will come. So I jokingly say I look like I have Colin Kaepernick and a thigh lock. So, I have all of these jokes about being by myself and evaluating my life. And I say I went from having a married relationship with a husband, you know, how I'd let myself down over time. I went from having a husband to having a live-in serious boyfriend to having a committed boyfriend to having a friend with privileges to having a hang and bang. I said just before COVID hit, I pretty much just had a hang and bang, which consisted of, you know, Netflix, some dick, and a breakfast burrito. I apologize for the coarseness, but you know, this is this kind of show. I'm going to get a little wilder too, just so you know. I'm not going to be totally crass, and it'll be like within the confines, but this show is going to be a little wilder, a little funnier, a little looser than Talk of Our Times. I will do some news, mostly talking about this whole new way of thinking, or at least the new way I think we should be thinking. But yeah, the new material is going over like a house on fire. Or I'm just talking about, you know, what's next. And I talk about how, and just think about the logic. I talk about how I canceled my subscription to Apple Music because being alone for all that time, I took out all my vinyl. I took out all of my, I mean, I have 8 tracks, but I took out all of my music from storage, and I had the time. I literally organized it, alphabetized it. I have all my CDs. I have an external disk drive on my computer, so I took time to actually load music into my computer. So even if I get a new computer, I can still create playlists on my old computer that I just saved, because Apple Music, you don't own it, you're renting it. It's 13. I got waxed and vaxxed before we full out. Very good, Liz. But what I was saying is that Apple Music is $13.99 or 13 or whatever it is once the free period is over, and you don't own that music. You're literally renting it. The minute you end the subscription, they just suck it all out. And then I thought, when was the last time you bought an album, and albums are $9.99 now on Apple, or when was the last time you bought 13 songs? And I figured, you know, Monique, if you just spent that $13 a month buying actual songs and downloading them, you would have 156 songs that you own, or 12 albums, or any way you want to mix it. So I decided I'm just going to allot a music allowance aside from all the music that I already own. And it felt good. And then I just started canceling other subscriptions. It's like, when was the last time I used this streaming service? Well, it's been ages, because I pretty much, anything I want, I can watch on Amazon Prime, or, you know, I have Apple, and a couple things I watch through Apple TV, you know, that you can attach. But what I'm saying is, I don't do things willy-nilly now. Well, I never did them willy or nilly, but meaning I had all of this time to go over my life and see where I had done things right and where I could have done them better. But there's no point in taking yourself to task and asking yourself, you know, what did you do wrong? You did nothing wrong. I'm giving you permission, as I gave myself, to realize that everything you did prior to the last 18 months, 20 months, however long it's been for you, got you here. If you can hear my voice, you're listening to me either live or at some other point, everything you did got you here. And here is an opportunity. And life is happening for you, not to you. This is an opportunity to redefine our relationships, to redefine our dialogue, to redefine. I'm personally going a little retro, a little analog. I'm making playlists. I put a lot of songs into my computer with my external disk drive. I've actually made playlists and loaded them onto my phone. I can't even tell you how much I've enjoyed having new music to go to the gym. I downloaded the soundtrack to Downton Abbey. Cost me $11.99 because it's quite large. I think it's a double album. I can't tell you how happy it makes me to hear the dun, 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 the theme song while I'm on the treadmill. You know, like, yeah, I want to have a tiny waist like Mary, you know, and it inspires me. And I think about going to England when this is all over and meeting one of my loyal 330 gang, David Jonas, who lives in the UK, and he's on every day, even though it's 11:30 where he lives. We're here now. We're here now. We made it. And we're going to figure out how to create our own hustles and make our own money. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time as a stand-up. But when I used to do radio, I made X amount of money on the radio or writing for television. And my money manager, Charlie Garrido, he would just say, Monique, the money you make on radio is income. The money you make in little one-night gigs or in dive bars or even comedy clubs, that's IFCOM. He said, you save and live on your income. You take vacations and splurge on your IFCOM. And I believe all of us now realize that in the face of income being a completely subjective thing, that we have to really create as much IFCOM as we can. And that IFCOM is potentially our income. That what we've done just to keep body and soul together may be a doorway for something that you enjoy more. So I'm here on a ship, and now it's empty behind me because there's a bar over there that way, and live music just started. So I'm guessing we're almost at the half hour because they come out and they do these 20-25-minute music sets. And by the way, the entertainment on the cruise ship, because so many people have left entertainment, they couldn't wait. They had to find other jobs, and some people went back to school. One of my 330s went to nursing school. He's a dude in his early 50s, and he went to nursing school during COVID. So the talent on the cruise, on this cruise ship and the last one I was on, is next level. The music is fun, the dancing is great, and you can see it's the people that really stuck with it. The comedy, the guy I'm working with another comedian. He's a very funny guy, pretty delightful. And, you can see everybody's excited and happy to be working again, to be out on the ocean again, to be cruising again. There's a lot of children, as you can see, walking behind me. It's really fun to see the children having a good time. And, and it's for the children. My nieces, I always talk about my nieces in my act. I talk about how I spy on them. I'll tell you, it gets a huge laugh from the audience when I say that I have 5 social media profiles and that my nieces think I'm a light-skinned brother with blue eyes from Oakland, that I'm catfishing my own nieces with the world's hottest felon. Some of you remember that story, Jeremy Meeks. He was a guy that was so hot that he was released from jail, literally released from jail because his mugshot went viral and he got a modeling contract, and they figured, well, this guy's so smoking hot, we're just going to let him out of jail and let him go be a model, and, hopefully he won't start any more trouble. So I hope that it was worth your time and energy, because I do feel that time is more valuable than ever right now. I don't want to say wasted, but we've spent so much of it not doing things that made us happy, sort of grinding our gears and living in fear. And I want to circle back to my friend who was very offended that her boyfriend took 3 weeks on a cruise ship during the holidays. And she was like, well, I'm afraid that now that COVID is over, that we're going to just drift apart because he's going to go back to working all the time and blah, blah, blah. And here's what I'll leave you with. And then hopefully producer Stanton can show a little film that someone made. A friend of mine who makes 8mm. He has an 8mm camera, and he makes films. And he came over early one morning when the light was right, very early when I lived at my old apartment at the Hollywood Tower, and just made a little biography of me. And I found it today when I was looking for something else, and it made me so happy. But what I want to say is that I told my friend, if you want something, give it, be it. If you want to feel safe in the relationship, encouraged, not vulnerable, fearless, in full faith that it's a good thing and that it should last, if you want all that, then be Source. Do that for him. Tell him, you know what, it may hurt my feelings, but it's just my ego that you're going to be cruising during the holidays. I support your decision to get right back to work, to make as much money as you can, to feel good about yourself, to get back to your craft. And I could see she was reluctant when I said, can you do that? Do you understand what I'm saying? She's like, well, no, I don't want to hear well, most. I want you to give me an affirmative that you understand the concept of being Source. And she did, reluctantly. but I feel like to some degree being extremely, oh, thank you, Jay. But I feel that, thank you, Susie, that social media and being locked in has literally turned us inward, and fear and doubt. We've just gone into this vacuum of something akin to a narcissism factory. And it's all about, how am I going to feel less afraid? How am I going to figure this out? How am I going to feel supported? And I'm here to tell you right now, whatever you think you need and whatever scares you, do it for someone else. Be source. Give someone else a few dollars, even if you're afraid and you don't know where your next dollars are coming in. Support somebody. Show somebody how to work something on their computer or their phone. I'm terrible at technology, but the old people on the ship are worse. So I show them how to get on the Panorama Wi-Fi and how to buy the Wi-Fi package and which one will work best for them. Be source. Be the opposite of narcissistic. Look around you and you will be shocked and delighted at the results. Whatever you want, give it. And I told my friend, I'm not going to leave you alone until I get an affirmative answer that you understand what it means to truly give other people support, structure, positive affirmations. And that's what I intend to do through stories, anecdotes, jokes, sometimes dirty jokes, news stories, links, funny videos. That's what producer Stanton and I are bringing your way. So thank you for indulging me these last 2 weeks while I'm kind of feeling my way to it. Thank you, David, while I'm feeling my way and cooking it. And then on Wednesday, I'll be home in Los Angeles with my proper couch and my proper light ring. And we will do our first sort of ready to rock and roll, the new version of the Monique Marvez Show. So please send me a message on any social media platform that you and I interact on. And feel free to say, hey, I watched the YouTube. Even if you're a Facebook friend or an Insta friend, reach out. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you want more of. Maybe every once in a while, I'll just do straight up comedy. I'll take you to a show with me and stick it in the camera in the back on a tripod, and that'll be the show. We aim to please. So I'm going to let producer Stanton take it away from here and play the little video. And until Wednesday night, which is going to be great. It's Wednesday right before Halloween. So until, and I'm not sure that tonight is the full moon, to be perfectly candid with you. And I know it's a hunter's moon. I looked all of it up. I believe tomorrow is when it really gets full. But we'll look it up. You only want more, Mo? Well, thank you, my darling. Choose to be source. That's right. It's be source. So until next Wednesday night or 3:30 tomorrow, if you're part of that group. And I'm going to expand. I think I'm going to try from time to time to do the 3:30 on Instagram as well, so I can start to grow that audience, because some people just, with all of the information coming out about Facebook, I know a lot of people are becoming conscientious objectors, and I don't want to lose you. And even though technically Instagram is owned by Facebook, for some reason people don't make that distinction, just like WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. So whatever. Until tomorrow at 3:30, or next Wednesday at 8 o'clock Pacific time in my living room. You know the drill. Love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can as fast as you can. Take it away, Stanton.